History is a fickle thing. It is a tapestry woven with countless threads, each representing choices made and paths taken. What if we could tug at one of those threads, altering its course? What if a single decision could rewrite the narrative? This essay delves into such a hypothetical scenario. We will explore the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a man whose leadership was pivotal to the American civil rights movement. But what if Dr. King had chosen a different path? What if his extraordinary voice had resonated from a different platform? We will examine 3 alternate realities. First, we'll imagine Dr. King solely as a pastor, his influence confined to the pulpit. Second, we'll envision him as a politician, navigating the halls of power. Lastly, we will consider him as an academic, shaping young minds in the world of academia. Through each scenario, we will analyze how the civil rights movement might have unfolded without his direct leadership. We will consider the potential rise of other leaders, the strategies they might have employed, and the overall impact on the fight for equality.
Imagine a young Martin Luther King Jr., driven by his faith and commitment to social justice, choosing to dedicate his life solely to his congregation. As the pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church, he would undoubtedly have been a powerful voice for peace and equality within his community. His sermons, imbued with the same eloquence and moral clarity that captivated the nation, would have ignited the spirits of his parishioners. They would have carried his message of love and resistance into the streets of Atlanta. However, the scope of his influence would have been drastically different. Without King's leadership on a national stage, the civil rights movement would have likely taken a more fragmented and localized approach. The absence of his unifying presence, his ability to mobilize masses and galvanize support across state lines, would have left a void. The fight for equality would have continued, fueled by the tireless efforts of countless individuals and organizations.
Let's consider the Montgomery bus boycott, a pivotal moment in the civil rights movement. Without King's strategic leadership and his commitment to nonviolence, the boycott could have easily faltered. The anger and frustration of the Black community, subjected to constant humiliation and segregation, could have boiled over into violence. The movement, lacking a unifying figure to channel their rage into peaceful protest, might have been stifled. The vacuum left by King's absence could have paved the way for figures like Malcolm X to gain greater prominence. Malcolm X, a powerful advocate for Black empowerment, was known for his more militant approach to achieving equality. Without King's message of nonviolence to counterbalance him, the movement might have taken a more radical turn. The struggle for civil rights could have descended into a cycle of violence and retaliation, further dividing the nation and delaying the progress made during the actual movement.
Now, let's envision Martin Luther King Jr. as a shrewd and eloquent congressman. His voice, honed in the pulpit, would have commanded attention in the halls of Congress. His speeches, imbued with moral clarity and a passionate plea for justice, could have swayed hearts and minds. He might have been able to forge alliances, leverage his influence, and expedite the passage of civil rights legislation. King's presence in Congress could have opened doors for other African Americans, diversifying the political landscape and giving a voice to the marginalized. His legislative prowess, combined with his understanding of the plight of his people, could have led to the enactment of more comprehensive and far-reaching civil rights laws. Perhaps the dream of economic equality, a dream that King pursued towards the end of his life, could have been realized sooner.
Section 5. A House Divided. The Pitfalls of Political Pragmatism. However, the world of politics is fraught with compromise and concession. King, as a politician, would have been forced to navigate a system rife with bureaucracy and resistance to change. He would have encountered opposition from segregationist forces, determined to maintain the status quo. The slow grind of legislative processes, the need to make concessions to appease opponents, might have tempered his message and frustrated his supporters. The pursuit of political expediency could have come at the cost of his moral authority. The compromises he might have been forced to make could have alienated some of his more radical followers, creating divisions within the movement itself. The delicate balance between achieving incremental change through legislation and maintaining the moral high ground would have been a constant challenge.
Section 6. The Professor Seeds of Change in the Ivory Tower. Finally, let's imagine Dr. King as a professor, a scholar shaping young minds in the hallowed halls of academia. As a professor of theology or philosophy, his teachings would have delved into the ethical and moral dimensions of segregation, inspiring a new generation of activists and thinkers. His writings, meticulously researched and passionately argued, would have become required reading, sparking debate and challenging deeply held prejudices. King's influence, though more subtle and gradual, would have been profound. He would have nurtured a generation of leaders, equipping them with the intellectual tools and moral courage to dismantle systemic racism. His ideas, disseminated through his students and his writings, would have slowly but surely permeated the fabric of society, chipping away at the foundations of segregation.
Section 7. The slow burn of revolution, ideas as weapons. The civil rights movement, under this scenario, would have likely unfolded at a different pace. Without King's charismatic leadership and his ability to mobilize mass demonstrations, the struggle might have been longer, more arduous. However, the intellectual foundation laid by King, the critical thinking he fostered, and the moral arguments he advanced would have ensured the movement's eventual triumph. His classroom would have become a crucible for social change. He would have challenged his students to confront their own biases, to question societal norms, and to envision a more just and equitable world. His legacy would have been one of intellectual rigor, moral courage, and an unwavering belief in the power of ideas to change the world.
Section 8. The Ripple Effect. Different paths, shared goals. It's crucial to remember that while these scenarios explore different paths for Dr. King, the yearning for equality, the fight for justice would have persisted. The movement, though perhaps different in its tactics and timeline, would have continued to draw strength from the countless individuals who refuse to be defined by the color of their skin. Leaders like Rosa Parks, John Lewis, Bayard Rustin, and Fannie Lou Hamer, individuals who worked tirelessly alongside King, would have likely taken on more prominent roles. Their voices, amplified by the shared outrage and determination of millions, would have continued to challenge the conscience of a nation.
Section 9. The Power of One. Could anyone replace King? It's impossible to say with certainty whether another leader could have replicated King's unique combination of charisma, intellect, and moral authority. His ability to articulate the aspirations of a people, to challenge the status quo without inciting hatred, was extraordinary. His message of non-violence, rooted in his deep faith, resonated far beyond the confines of the segregated South. It's plausible that the civil rights movement without King at the helm might have been more fragmented, more susceptible to internal divisions and external pressures. The path to equality might have been longer, more winding, and perhaps more violent. Yet, the indomitable spirit of those fighting for justice, the moral imperative of their cause, would have ultimately prevailed.
Section 10. History's Unwritten Chapters, A Legacy Reimagined. This exploration of alternate histories is not meant to diminish Dr. King's legacy. Rather, it serves to highlight the profound impact of his choices, the courage he displayed in choosing to lead a movement that challenged the very soul of a nation. It compels us to consider the countless what-ifs that litter the landscape of history, reminding us that the course of human events is shaped by individual choices as much as by societal forces. By imagining a world where Dr. King chose a different path, we gain a deeper appreciation for the path he ultimately took. We are left to ponder the sacrifices he made, the risks he took, and the indelible mark he left on the fight for equality.
Section 11. Conclusion. The indelible mark of a dream deferred. The legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is not confined to the victories won during the civil rights movement. It is a legacy that continues to inspire, to challenge, and to remind us of the unfinished work of achieving a just and equitable society. By imagining him in different roles, we are reminded that the fight for equality requires a multitude of voices, a diversity of approaches, and an unwavering commitment to justice. While these hypothetical scenarios offer a glimpse into alternate realities, they ultimately underscore the profound impact of Dr. King's actual choices. His decision to lead, to lend his voice and his life to the pursuit of equality, changed the course of American history.
This channel exposes the secrets of history's biggest what-ifs. If you enjoyed this content, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe and comment. Let's unravel the past together.